Hi, this is Katie Berkloff. I'm just recording this for my blog, Living with Embouchure Dystonia. So I have my French horn here today. I'm gonna go through a couple things with you just to show you kind of like what kind of helped me in the beginning as far as recovering some of my playing. So the first thing is that when you have embouchure dystonia, you have a tendency to tense up when you go to play, and this is because the one muscle is fighting another muscle, the signals that are being sent. So as soon as we try to form an embouchure, some of us have a lot of tremors that happen. So even just the act of forming an embouchure, or what I call setting an embouchure when we go to play, even that act of setting that up causes tremors to happen, even if we do it without the horn connected to our face. Just the action of can cause tremors. As you can see, I don't have any that happen right now, but in the beginning they were really bad. I used to get them even when I tried to drink out of a bottle of water, or if I tried to whistle. If even sometimes when I was talking, I would have little spasms up in here in my cheeks, and it's a very frustrating thing because you feel like it's so tied. You can feel it beneath the surface of your skin, almost like something crawling beneath your skin, and it becomes so frustrating because it feels like it's so ingrained that you can't get it out of there. But one of the ways that helped me was just refocusing on blowing loose air through a loose embouchure in the very beginning. Because I thought about what can I do? What can I do? Well, I can practice using opposite muscles than what I'm used to using, and that's what I had to do in order to get rid of all this tension in my face. So even just going, and sometimes I like to visualize and think of if I'm blowing on maybe some hot coffee, even though it's not directly below me, it's kind of in front of me, blowing something hot, just kind of letting the loose air go out. Even some of it gets under this upper lip and lower lip, some of it gets in the cheeks here. You can even puff your cheeks. You're really letting the air sneak into the corners here too. Puffing those out. And just the act of blowing loose air through the lips helped a lot, just being able to use opposite muscles. Since I could do this, in the beginning it was a little more difficult because no matter what I did, I kind of had tremors no matter what. But I had to find something that was somewhat comfortable. And by me somewhat comfortable, I mean even just, if you can find something that's even that tiny bit of comfortable, you have some leverage and you want to run with it. So, for example, if I have a hard time doing this, blowing loose air, I might anchor my corners down a little bit. I might frown. And maybe when I'm frowning, I notice that I don't have as many tremors. So I practice doing this. So I might use this setting to practice opposite muscles and practice using different, getting that tension out of there. Now, I did this for about a couple months, just practicing blowing loose air. And even the act of bringing the horn up to the face causes your brain to go into I'm playing horn mode. You want your brain to forget all of that. You want your muscles to feel like they're not going into playing mode, and you don't want to feel like that signal is being sent, because if that signal is being sent, then already our dystonia is kicking in even as we are bringing the horn up to our face. Even when I bring it up to here, it's like, oh my gosh, my body's already preparing for playing. Even the act of bringing your dominant hand, like for example, the left hand is the dominant playing hand of French horn, even bringing the left hand up to the face of the mouthpiece, or even without the mouthpiece, causes us to go into playing mode. So you want to try different things. For example, try just buzzing with the right hand mouthpiece. Even sometimes practicing like trumpet really helped me a lot, because trumpet had a different enough feel. And even though the mouthpiece is a little bit bigger, I think the trumpet has enough resistance and it slots so well compared to all the other brass instruments. Like the notes, you don't have any room to slip off of them as easily. So it helped out a lot. So even just playing trumpet helped a lot because it was the right hand. I was using different valves. There's a different back pressure. It just felt completely different. So for some people, I know some friends that have moved to trumpet playing because it's a lot. It just completely is more adaptable. And for some reason, the dystonia doesn't kick in when they do it. When I tried other instruments like tuba or trombone or euphonium, it was way worse. My dystonia became so much harder to control. So playing you think instruments with bigger mouthpieces would help, but not necessarily. For me, what helps is I have this really deep cut mouthpiece. Well, deep cut but heavyweight mouthpiece made by Dennis Wick. And it's not necessarily that the circumference of the opening of the mouthpiece is huge, like on trombone, it's like a bigger diameter. Where here, the circumference is the same as a normal French horn mouthpiece. It's just that the resistance and the vibrations of the mouthpiece feel different. So it's not as loose of a feeling. I have a little more resistance to work with, which helps me a lot, and it's kind of my crutch. It helps me to be able to stabilize my playing a little bit more. And I played on my Farkas Deep Cup for most of my rehabilitation up until this year. I just switched to this literally like a couple months ago. But my Farkas Deep Cup I played on since 2011 when I started rehabilitation. So, anyways, going back to what I was saying, even the action of bringing the instrument up to your face can cause the dystonia. So, what I practiced on was what I could do. So, what can I do? I blow out air out of my mouth. I can find a way that feels a little bit comfortable. Once I start doing that, and I find myself being able to do it a little more and more, I start to try to free buzz. But not a forced free buzz, just kind of like a. And if you can free buzz without tremors, then that's great. Or if you can even free buzz in a certain range without tremors, focus on that range. So like, for example, maybe free buzzing in your high range causes tremors, but not in your low register. So, for example, if you can practice free buzzing and just even, but for the main part, find an area where it's easy for you to free buzz, but use lots of air so that you're not using so much tension here. Focus on the air and focus on the air supporting that free buzz rather than your embouchure controlling and correcting the air. And that's I talk about that in my blog a lot, about that really delicate balance of air and embouchure control, because we need both, but we need the air to support the embouchure more than anything. And especially when it comes to embouchure dystonia, we need the air to be there. So I went to free buzzing after a couple months of being able to just get used to being able to blow loose air, and be able to free buzz a little more. So the best way to free buzz for me, and if you can do this, if you don't have tremors in your low register when you're free buzzing, is to start in the low register. Always start from the low register and build up. Because the high register, even middle register, because of the muscle tension and the more corners we need and the more stability we need in our playing for high register, causes a lot of tension to happen. And the dystonia is, even though, like, for example, I might not have tremors in my high register when I play, it still causes so much more tension in my face than it would in my low register, even though my low register has more spasms when I'm playing. Okay, so focusing on building from the ground up. So, for example, when I practice free buzzing exercises, I would just practice blowing loose air out of my lips and free buzzing from low to high, and always focusing on relaxing, never forcing this. So, you want the corners to form naturally. You don't want to feel like you're tensing up or setting. Again, we're trying to get rid of this feeling of setting. You just want it to feel like it's a flag in the wind, just blowing around. Even if it feels like your muscles are going everywhere, just try and relax and let your corners be saggy and That's the key. Saggy corners. Just let them be loose. However, I'm going to give you an example right now because my corners are much more formed now that I've recovered a lot. But I know when I first started, I had to anchor down my corners a lot because I had so much tension even just doing right there. So I had to bring my corners down lower. Let me see if I can do it. Was doing a lot more frowning just to get the tension out of there. And it's not just the tension in the corners is really bad, but it's just the whole thing. Embouchure dystonia causes tension in everything. You might not realize it at the beginning. You might think, oh, it's only restricted to here, but it really is restricted to the back of your jaw, to your neck, to your shoulders, to your whole upper body. So there's so much tension that needs to be relieved, not just in the face, but your upper body. And I go into more detail about this on my blog, about how I do neck exercises, shoulder exercises, I massage my face, have myofascial release, which is where you put your hand in your mouth and you stretch from the inside out. And I do TENS unit, which is electric currents that help relax the muscles back here in my masseter. And I take supplements that help with the blood flow in my face. So it's a lot of relieving tension, a ton of relieving tension. But the main thing is before you do all that, before you do the supplements, and supplements like very last, like way off, forget I even said that. The main thing is going to be just reprogramming your ability to even get a sound out of the horn with less tremors happening. I don't want to say without tremors happening, but with less. So the key is like, you're going to have tremors for a while, but you really want to focus on finding leverage. And leverage can be even the tiniest little note that's easy to hold for you, easier for you to hold. So for example, I might be able to play my middle C with a little bit of tremors. The C is better than the B because the B below it is crazy. Let's say the B below it is just, I can't even play it without my mouthpiece feeling like it's gonna shoot off my face. So again, going back to what I was saying, finding leverage in what you can do. And so I found out I could blow air through my lips. I start free buzzing. I start free buzzing from the ground up, from low to high. And eventually, what you want to do is just slowly blow loose air into your mouthpiece like this. Don't even touch the mouthpiece at first. And again, pretending like you're blowing on some hot coffee, or for some reason in my mind, it's like pasta at the end of my bell. Like I feel like I'm trying to cool off a bowl of pasta. Whatever works, whatever makes you happy. Again, the loose buzzing. And bring the mouthpiece closer. If you feel that your face is starting to tense up even more, and slowly bring it to your face. If you feel like you get this close and already your face is, you can tell that the signals being sent to your embouchure are going crazy, like you're already having spasms when it's this close, go ahead and put the horn back down. And try again. And slowly bring it in. So what we're trying to do is not have that reaction. We're trying to trick the brain into reminding it that you're doing something else. So again, you always want to keep this image of the blowing on the hot food. If you start to think about I'm playing my horn, then it's going to go back into your embouchure dystonia is going to kick in. So think about I'm blowing on food. And even if you need a visual, I know it sounds crazy, even if you need a visual aid, like a picture of a hot cup of coffee in front of you, or you need to put some hot cocoa right in front of you on your desk when you're trying to play, or a plate of hot food, or pasta. Just go ahead and always keep that visual thing in mind, and just pretend like you're doing something else other than playing horn. So I'm blowing on it. I'm cooling it off. I'm going to try and touch the mouthpiece, and I don't care whether I get a sound or not. It's just if I can touch the mouthpiece and even get a sound out for half a second, that's okay. And you have to be okay with it. And you have to not care about the way you sound. It's not about the sound. It's not about being able to play a note. It's not about anything musically. It's literally about a task. Just try to relax and focus on the blowing the air to cool off the hot coffee. And there you got a sound out. That's perfect. That is progress. So once you're able to start doing that and practice doing that every single day, I mean every single day, even if it means that you have to do that for an hour to just feel like you can get a sound out of the horn, you're making progress. And dystonia, again, is one of those things where it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So there are going to be days where the relapses are really bad, and you're going to feel like no matter the progress that you made the day before is just completely washed away. And then a couple days later, all of a sudden, it's like you're back to being able to play again, and you can work from there. So again, it's always about finding leverage. Even when you have relapses, looking for that leverage and trying to work with it. So leverage, just being able to blow air past the lips and the aperture. So a lot of people talk about the air and air being a huge factor. But I don't want you to get mistaken for thinking that we're talking about the air use like of a normal player. For example, when we're focusing on air when we're playing, we're focusing on lung control, and we're focusing on rhythmic breathing, being able to breathe with a metronome and blow out and naturally and be able to do it effortlessly in time and line up with time accurately while also not really thinking about it. It's just this whole, conglomerate of, it's just a whole different area. Anyways, I want you to forget about that. Forget about any studies that you're working on, that you worked on in school, any methods, the Farkas method, about anything to do with standard techniques, because standard techniques do not apply here. Standard techniques will make things a lot worse. Now, we can use certain standard techniques, but it's the way that's applied that's important. So, like when people say, "Oh, you just need to breathe more, you just need to use more air," or "It's all about the air and recovery." Yeah, but in what way? It's not about me being able to rhythmically blow in and out and in time. So again, the air again is a huge factor in recovering from embouchure dystonia that has to do with this feeling of loose air, of using the air to guide the embouchure. Because right now, even though embouchure control is important later on when you're an advanced player, being able to the air supports the embouchure, and the embouchure is able to move in whatever direction it needs to take. But in this case, our embouchure is so dysfunctional that the air is such a huge crutch. It's something that we need to use to remind our embouchure to kind of holds it up a little, even more so. So you want to focus even more on the just loose air feeling that I'm talking about, and the free buzzing. So again, going back to, I hope that makes sense, going back to getting a sound out. And again, it's not about how pretty it is. Just trying to get a sound out. Just trying to get that connection and not allow the brain to go into embouchure dystonia mode or playing mode. So you can even, for example, what helped me as soon as I wanted to find a pitch that was stable for me. So, for example, it's not that you can't play your horn. It is good that when you have embouchure dystonia, you experiment and you try finding what notes are easier on your horn. You have to play it to figure out how your dysfunctional embouchure functions. So For example, I might play down to my, let's see, I'll go from like a C to an F or something. Okay, so I might find that while I'm playing my low register, mid to low register, that my middle C is easier to play, like I said before, than my B. So, or let's go ahead with pedal C. Okay, maybe that's not easy for me today, but that was the easiest one I could hit when I started rehabilitating. So I started blowing air into my mouthpiece. Now the pedal C I started on, and I started working my way up. Again, working my way from bottom up. So I tried to hold the C out. But at the time, I think I was frowning a lot to be able to even play. It looked a lot more like that. And then I would work my way going down first. And then I would work my way going up. And another thing I did, which really helped, and this is probably even better than working on the pedal range, is finding one of the notes that is most comfortable for you. For example, middle C. If my middle C is more comfortable than my B, I'm going to start my middle C, and if I can hold it out long enough, longer than most of my other notes, if I can hold on to it long enough, I'm going to try and air bend it down into the next note. So you want to try to bend it down the next note. And air bending is really hard to do with embouchure dystonia. So you have to have a really stable note. You have to find a note or a pitch that you feel like you have that type of control with. So let's see. Letting the air guide you. So bending down into the next pitch, and as soon as you can grasp the top of the other note, try and keep working your way onto getting the other note. So you're literally regaining control of one note at a time. A lot of people want to quit because of this. A lot of people quit right at this stage because they're like, I don't have time to focus on regaining one note at a time. I mean, how long will it take me to regain every single note? But the thing is, if you already can have, I think people, take for granted, they don't appreciate, how significant even just having a little bit of leverage is. Because, I mean, there are some players that they have no leverage whatsoever. There's some players that have more than just embouchure dystonia. They have embouchure dystonia. Then they also have TMJ or bruxism, and then they have like some type of teeth problem, or they might have an additional dystonia that's caused also embouchure dystonia. So it's like they have even more loss of control in their body. So I think even just being grateful that you have a little bit of leverage and really running with it and really being proud of it and working with it, it's worth the time. It really is, because it's like, why would you give up when you already got a note out of the horn and you're already finding some pitches that you can hold on to a little bit longer than others, and you can work with those pitches and regain control of the other notes. And I think it's the patience and the determination that that a lot of people lack at the beginning stage, and it's mainly because they're going through the process of grief. And again, I talk in my blog about this. I'm kind of get sidetracked again, but the process of grief and just being in the right mental place to rehabilitate. So a lot of people, when they get ambulatory dystonia, right away they're freaking out. They're like, I just want to answer. I just want to be able to cure it. I just want to be able to play again. I just want to get this over with. I just want an answer. And it doesn't really hit them all at once that they have this disorder. They haven't really accepted it. They're like, yeah, I have it. But it's not going to be there all the time. That's great that you believe that it's not going to be there all the time, that it's going to eventually be gone. But also part of having ambulatory dystonia is accepting that you have it as well. And so to get to a point where you're able to say, okay, yes, I have ambulatory dystonia, and I'm okay with it. I know that I'm going to recover from it because I have the patience to put in the work, and I know that it's not going to be easy. But I love playing enough that I'm willing to put aside time for years and months, even years, to recover if I have to. So a lot of people talk about the psychology and about some people think that some dystonias their dystonia was caused by something psychological. And though I do believe there are some dystonias that are triggered by some type of emotional trauma or some type of anxiety, I think it's a completely different category. I don't even think it's dystonia. I think it's something related or something that's kind of phantoming it, but I don't think it's dystonia. And again, these are my own thoughts. I just think that a lot of people go through the grieving process in the beginning, and that gets in the way. That's such a huge hurdle for people to get through. And so they can't even go through this beginning process of just blowing air out, or just this tiny little steps that I'm talking about, the very tiny work that takes, months and years just of focus. So, okay, enough talking about that. Just moving forward, if you're in the right mental state, and you're willing to put in the time and the effort, then practicing these little things every day will help. Okay, so once I get back to being able to get a pitch on the horn and note bending into other pitches and regaining notes, pitches one at a time, and always working from bottom up, because again, you don't want to start from the top because there's a lot of tension in the higher plane unless you're an upstream player or you play on the inside of your lip, unlike most players that have Einsätzen. If you're Ansätzen, then maybe it's different. Maybe you do need to start in the high range and go lower. I'm not sure. I've never been able to play that way. So what helped me a lot was buzzing and blowing into the horn this way. And again, I skipped a step. So I went from blowing air and I showed you I blowed into the horn, but instead of blowing the horn, I practiced just blowing into the mouthpiece. So I skipped a step. I'm so sorry. So just blowing air out, getting used to doing that, and letting these corners relax, just slowly making a buzzing sound. And bringing the mouthpiece up. This is the step I skipped. You can focus on this for a couple months if you need to, because this helped me a lot with the buzzing in the mouthpiece. Again, moving away if it's causing tension. Try again to bring it back. Always focusing on blowing on hot food or hot drink. Now, if you can free buzz or buzz without getting tremors, then that's really great. You have great leverage. So immediately start working on just letting the air control your face and not letting these get in the way, your corners, and just focus on free buzzing different melodies. Like, for example, I didn't have that many tremors when I free buzzed or buzzed in the mouthpiece. So I started off right away just doing like little melodies on the piano. Like I would flunk out a little pitch like da da da. So I buzz it. And I try to do it on the mouthpiece. Or even just practicing scales, because not only will this help you with relaxing the corners, but also you're keeping up your endurance as well. I don't, when you have embouchure dystonia, you don't get to play a lot because you can't, because you have too much tension in your face. So how do we keep our strength up in our face? Because the strengthening portion is a huge, that's also a huge part of recovery, and we need to keep our strength up. But how do we do it in a way that we can do it safely without playing our horn? Because we don't want to create more tension. So one of those ways is the free buzzing helps a lot. And the buzzing helps a lot too, because not only are you practicing loosening these, but you're letting the air control it. And when the air controls it, you're still working out these muscles, but you're not going into this tight, set embouchure formation that you're used to. Another thing that really helps is the PEAT. Sorry, it's very bright right now. The PEAT embouchure trainer. If you can get that, that helps a lot too, because you can do a lot of strengthening exercises without playing. And if any of you have seen this, it's literally you just put the end in your mouth and practice holding it. And you hold it for, you don't want it to hurt, but and again, this thing is really powerful. It's more powerful than you think, so don't overuse it. It can really hurt you if you use it too much. It's really easy to overuse. And this part really helps with my embouchure dystonia, with the strengthening, and also just like the using different muscles. Because I accidentally bought the woodwind one instead of the brass one, so I can feel it more in my cheeks than my corners. So you put this in your mouth, in front of the teeth, and then you practice pulling on it, pulling outwards, and you're trying to get your muscles to grasp onto it and hold it. So you're fighting the resistance. And that looks really weird, sorry. But that helped a lot. That helps a lot, especially on the days where I can't play, because embouchure dystonia is very taxing. A lot of people think that it doesn't hurt, and it doesn't necessarily hurt in the beginning, but once you start physically rehabilitating, it can hurt a lot. But not in the sense like, oh, I'm damaging my face, but it hurts a lot in the fact that it's very endurance sapping, because you're using all this area, you're trying to practice regaining muscle control, and sometimes just going like this, like for an hour every day, actually is more taxing than I would say than, it's just like long tones, they're really taxing. Again, I definitely don't recommend practicing long tones. Definitely not in the beginning. No, not even in the middle stages. Not very ever until late stages of recovery, because it is way too difficult. So no long tones. Please don't do that. Okay, so going back to the playing, being able to free buzz, or blowing loose air, and blowing loose air while free buzzing, and blowing loose air while buzzing in the mouthpiece, then moving the mouthpiece to the horn. Now, when I move to the mouthpiece of the horn, I literally do, and some teachers do this, you'll see some teachers do this, which is a great way of teaching, is buzzing in the mouthpiece, then connecting it to the horn. And again, with embouchure dystonia, it's not about the sound. Don't care about the spready sound that it has, the spreadness or the airiness of the sound. All that matters is getting the pitch out. Always focusing on blowing that hot coffee. And you see how I moved it to the horn? that stage actually took a lot of practice, just moving the mouthpiece to the horn. Because the horn feels completely different once the mouthpiece is attached. And not only that, but when we start to hold the horn, again, our brain wants to revert back to, oh gosh, you're in horn playing mode. Let me freak out for a second, and the embouchure dystonia kicks in. So you have to really, even holding the horn differently might help you. It might be a good sensory trick. And for some it won't even make a difference. But I would just hold it by the side here. I wouldn't even put my left hand on the pinky ring or the keys. I would just hold it like this with the one hand and just because if I try to hold it the normal way you hold the horn, it's like my brain just automatically shuts down. So that was a key way in regaining my first couple of pitches on horn, being able to regain especially my pedal register. I played in my pedal register for, oh gosh, probably a year, just practicing on regaining every single note in the pedal register, because even if I tried to move up to the middle register, I could feel the embouchure dystonia start to tense in again. I would try to play higher or whatever, and then I go back to low register. Also, now I had tremors in my low register again. It's like, oh great, I don't want that. So I had to go back to low register, iron all the spasms again, and keep work. So always work from the way bottom up, and work in only set ranges. So for example, once I regained the pitch in my pedal register, I moved on to my mid to low register and built my way from the bottom up. And never crossing registers. I didn't cross registers for a really long time because even just jumping to different registers was, it just caused a lot of tension, so much just tension to come back. So jumping between registers was not safe for a really long time. It probably wasn't until like 4 or 5 years in, I finally was able to start jumping registers. And I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, 4 to 5 years, I can't wait that long. But just have hope and have patience. Some people recover really fast. Some people, it doesn't even take them this long to recover. But it's worth taking the time. No matter how much time it takes, it's worth it. So don't think about the time. Think about, what can I accomplish today? What can I regain today? What can I do today? Oh, I can buzz in my mouthpiece again finally. That's awesome. That's progress. Oh, what can I play my horn again today? Can I blow a pitch out? Yeah, I found a note I can play, and it's about, there aren't any tremors and there aren't any twitches going on this one pitch, and I'm so proud of that. So always focusing and being grateful on the little things. So I basically want to do a video over just beginning recovery methods that kind of help me basically physical retraining exercises that I did. So again, the blowing loose air. Some practitioners will make you blow through a straw, blow on a feather, blow on a windmill, blow on a spoon, blow on something that's completely different than your mouthpiece. But if you feel like the mouthpiece doesn't trigger your dystonia, and like for example, I hold it in my right hand rather than my left, like horn players, and practice was blowing loose air on it. And the visualization helped me, the blowing on hot food. So always, that visualization is a huge thing. So always pretending like I'm doing something else rather than playing my horn. And it seems silly. So that exercise, once you reestablish buzzing, slowly moving the buzzing to the horn. And again, always making sure that you're trying to feel out what areas are tense and what areas are not, and working with that. And the key thing in the buzzing and the free buzzing, always also on the side, I didn't emphasize enough, when you're free buzzing and buzzing, always practice pitches with the piano, like playing little tunes and buzzing them back and free buzzing them back and then buzzing them back. And you'll feel a lot of, you will get a lot of strength in your embouchure, but it will also just help the air support your muscles. So, and also always remembering to relax here. Always relax here. So that helped a lot in beginning stages. So I know this video is getting really long. It's almost like 40 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit for you just to show you this other exercise that I do that helps a lot in the beginning. Once you're to this stage, and maybe this is a year in, maybe it's months in, maybe it's a year, just practicing free buzzing to playing. So I'm going to start on my C. And I'm basically going to do an arpeggio. And so I go through, and it's all open harmonics. So I go through the harmonic series, and I work on each one, buzzing and to playing. And the key thing, again, it's not about the sound. It's not about whatever you're thinking about. Trust me, it's not whatever you're thinking about. Just focus. The main thing is, did you notice when I buzzed and then blew into the horn, there were no spasms happening, no tremors, no twitches. There are a couple of air leaks happening, but that's because I'm still working on this lower lip. I still lack some control over here, but I feel like that is more has to do with the brain signal. Like I have some type of paralysis going on right here, where my muscle just does not want to function normally right there. And you can even see it when I'm talking, like there's still more of an opening on this side of my lips when I'm talking than this side. And so I'm slowly regaining control on this side. So anyways, not to get off track, did you notice that I didn't have any tremors? So the key thing is always remembering to focus on that buzz to the mouthpiece.